In a world that increasingly equates more with better, Mike Mentzer's Consolidation Training Program stands as a revolutionary rebuttal. His ideas, radical at the time, were met with skepticism and dismissal, often from entrenched corners of the bodybuilding industry that thrived on complexity, volume, and doing more. But as the data from both in-house and peer-reviewed studies demonstrate, Mentzer wasn't merely speculating. He was right. There wasn't only scientific validity and practical efficacy in Mentzer's conclusions, but also the emergence of a new paradigm in exercise, one that prioritizes biological efficiency, recovery-centric design, and individualization over volume and tradition. At the heart of Mike Mentzer's training philosophy is a deceptively simple idea. Perform the least amount of exercise required to stimulate growth in the major muscles, then allow the body to fully recover and adapt before training again. This principle flies in the face of conventional wisdom, which typically mandates multi-day splits, endless volume, and minimal rest. The genesis of consolidation training.
If I can honestly say I contributed one meaningful thing to exercise, it's what I just explained to you. That as you get stronger and bigger, you don't do more exercise, you do less.
Initially developed in response to stalled...
If you were to draw a line, a horizontal line, from left to right across a page of paper, with that line representing zero effort, and then off of that line, graph your daily effort output. You get up in the morning, you take a shower, you scrub yourself down, you dry yourself, you walk to the car, you climb some steps to go into the building, you push a pencil. The graph representing that kind of effort output would barely leave the flat line. It would be a little squiggly sine wave. Then all of a sudden you go into the gym and you perform a heavy set of partial bench presses or a set of heavy Nautilus laterals, whatever. All of a sudden, that little squiggly line starts to take off in a vertical, straight vertical line, off the paper, out the door, down the street, and around the block. Now, within that space is how much more biochemical resources are used up.
His insight was that any increase in intensity required a disproportionate decrease in volume and frequency. The more intensely you train, the less you should train. Thus, consolidation training evolved from trial and error with real clients. The final program condensed all resistance training into just 2 workouts, each consisting of only 2 compound movements. Workout A, squats and pull-downs. Workout B, deadlifts and dips. These 4 exercises, performed to true failure, covered virtually every major muscle group while minimizing redundant overlap. Recovery periods ranged from 7 to 14 days and sometimes longer, depending on the individual's rate of recovery. The result? More progress and, obviously, significantly more free time. Mentzer wasn't just offering a training method, he was offering a philosophy.
A bodybuilding workout is not aerobic. A bodybuilding workout is not an endurance contest. Your only purpose is to activate the growth mechanism with the least amount of exercise possible.
Scientific justification. Less is more. The consolidation model is not just practical, it's supported by a wealth of evidence. A meta-analysis by physiologists Carpinelli and Otto reviewed 45 studies and found no significant benefit to multiple set training over single set training for size and strength gains. A study by DeFranca et al. In 2015 examined the effects of adding single-joint exercises to a resistance training program already comprising multi-joint exercises. The results indicated no significant additional benefits in muscle strength or size, reinforcing the idea that compound movements sufficiently stimulate the targeted muscles. Furthermore, long-term research by Steele et al. Demonstrated that engaging in high-intensity resistance training once per week can lead to continued strength gains over several years. This finding underscores the efficacy of low-frequency, high-intensity training protocols, Collectively, these studies substantiate Mike Mentzer's philosophy. With adequate intensity and recovery, minimalistic training approaches are not only efficient, but also effective. Empirical evidence, the Nautilus North studies. The Nautilus North studies, conducted at a Canadian strength and fitness facility between the late 2000s and 2010s, were based on extensive hands-on coaching and data collection. Participants range from athletes to everyday gym goers and individuals focused on fat loss, offering a broad and diverse sample for evaluating Mentzer's methods. While the Nautilus North studies were in-house investigations rather than peer-reviewed academic papers, their methodology was rigorous and data-driven. These findings were derived from a large pool of supervised workouts and tracked using validated tools like the BodPod. Moreover, the studies were published in Ironman magazine, a respected voice in evidence-based strength training, and cited in multiple books and professional forums. Their public visibility and open scrutiny led further credibility to the work. In an industry often dominated by anecdote and pseudoscience, this level of structured data collection and analysis provides valuable insight into real-world training effectiveness. In one of the foundational studies on training frequency, participants performed a single high-intensity workout and then were tested daily for 2 weeks. The findings: the average lean mass gain after 14 days, excluding outliers, 0.733 pounds. The projected yearly gain at this rate, about 19.5 pounds. Optimal training frequency, on average, was once every 6.6 to 10 days. This directly supports Mentzer's inroad theory. The body first recovers from training, sometimes for up to 10 days, then builds new muscle. Importantly, when we extrapolate the average lean gain of 0.733 pounds every 2 weeks, we arrive at a projected annualized lean mass gain of about 19.5 pounds. This aligns almost exactly with Mentzer's original proposition, that the majority of one's genetic potential for hypertrophy could be actualized in under a year. While there is no single study that declares 19.5 pounds as the definitive limit of muscular potential, the convergence of training science, longitudinal observation, and physiological adaptation models supports this conclusion. Mike Mentzer himself consistently emphasized just how slow the muscle growth process truly is, and how unrealistic expectations often lead to counterproductive decisions. In his own words,
Just how slow is the growth process? Well, would everyone here agree to the fact that gaining even 10 pounds of muscle a year is a tremendous achievement? Anybody here grow more than 10 pounds of muscle this year? Not 10 pounds of body weight, that's easy. 10 pounds of pure muscle. It doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't a whole hell of a lot, but look over the long term, 5 years, and that's how you have to look at your bodybuilding career over the long term. Nobody became Mr. America in 1 year. Gaining at that rate of speed in 5 years, you would gain 50 pounds of muscle, which is enough to transform the average adult male weighing 165 into a 215-pound Mr. Olympia.
he also broke it down to the absurdly slow pace of muscle growth at a daily level.
If you were to gain 10 pounds of muscle a year, what would that come out to on a daily level? 0.027 pounds of muscle gained per day, which is the same as 12 grams, or less than half an ounce. That's not enough to register on the body weight scale. Yet how many of you weigh yourself every day looking for some kind of weight gain? If you're seeing weight gains every day, then you're not gaining muscle. What are you gaining?
Fat or what?
Fat.
Mentzer's statements, made decades ago, echo today's scientific models. His ability to describe the biological limits of hypertrophy with such clarity and realism shows that he wasn't just promoting a training style. He was advocating for an honest relationship with progress itself. Why 19.5 pounds in 1 year likely reflects genetic potential. 1. Beginner gains are front-loaded. Research consistently shows that drug-free lifters make their most substantial gains in the first year, after which progress slows dramatically. According to natural hypertrophy models, such as those by Lyle McDonald and Eric Helms, muscle gain expectations for natural trainees follow this pattern. Year 1, around 20 to 25 pounds. Year 2, around 10 pounds. Year 3, about 5 pounds. Year 4 and beyond, minimal or maintenance gains. McDonald's conclusions in the matter were published in Business Insider magazine and in his online article, 4 Models for Genetic Muscular Potential. Helms and colleagues provided a peer-reviewed framework in their Muscle and Strength Pyramid and research review on hypertrophy in natural bodybuilders that brings support to McDonald's model, indicating that muscle gain is very slow for trained individuals, that muscle gain is best measured over many months rather than weeks, and that expectations for the rate of gain must be realistic and biologically limited. So, if someone gains around 20 pounds in their first year, they're not just progressing, they're approaching their full genetic potential for muscle mass. 2. The law of diminishing returns. Mike Mentzer never claimed everyone would reach their biological limit in 12 months, but rather that, if trained optimally, most drug-free individuals would achieve most of their genetic capacity in that time. After that point, progress becomes exponentially slower. Enhanced expectations skew reality. In the modern fitness culture dominated by enhanced physiques, it's easy to lose sight of what's naturally achievable. For a drug-free trainee, gaining 19 to 20 pounds of muscle in a year is extraordinary. It often represents a lifetime best year of gains. Beyond that, growth is more incremental than explosive. Bottom line, while the exact point at which one's genetic potential for hypertrophy is reached varies by individual, the convergence of real-world training data, physiological theory, and longitudinal models suggests that gaining 15 to 20 pounds of muscle in the first year, especially for natural trainees, brings most individuals very close to their genetic ceiling. The fact that progress slows dramatically after this point reinforces Mentzer's assertion that, with proper intensity and recovery, the majority of one's potential can be realized in a single year. Further validation: muscle and strength gains during caloric deficit. Even more compelling was the Nautilus North fat loss study, which applied Mentzer's protocol to individuals in a caloric deficit for a 10-week period. Most fitness professionals assume that calorie restriction impairs strength and hypertrophy, but this study showed the opposite. Participants lost 6 to 11 pounds of fat, gained 1 to 4 pounds of lean mass, and increased strength by 15 to 35% depending on the lift. Not only was fat lost, but lean tissue was maintained or increased, even in cases where the calories were restricted. Most importantly, strength levels went up. These results were only seen as they dropped the training volume and frequency while maintaining a high intensity of effort. When more sets or exercises were added, these improvements vanished. Recovery, not calories, was the limiting factor. These results confirm that applying a high-quality stimulus and giving the body time to adapt produces dramatic changes in strength, muscle mass, and health, even in fat loss conditions. The old paradigm is broken. Time for a new framework. The traditional bodybuilding paradigm, high volume, split routines, constant gym attendance, is not only inefficient, it's actively counterproductive for most trainees, especially natural athletes. This framework is designed for elite athletes or drug-enhanced individuals with abnormally high recovery capacity. The fallacy of volume and frequency. Training programs modeled on IFBB pros or Instagram influencers rarely work for average people. The reason is simple: genetic variation and recovery ability is vast. Some individuals can train daily without overtraining. Others, as Mentzer observed, need up to 10 days of rest to recover from a high-intensity session. In this outdated model, progress stalls because recovery is incomplete. Motivation dwindles due to lack of results, and injuries increase as systemic fatigue accumulates. The answer isn't train longer, it's train smarter. Proposing a new exercise paradigm. Inspired by Mentzer's work, but informed by modern science and technology, Heavy Duty College proposes a new model for exercise programming, the Adaptive Efficiency Paradigm, AEP. This model hinges on three core principles. 1. Stimulus, not volume. Rather than counting hours in the gym each week, training should aim for a qualitative threshold, momentary muscular failure. Once reached, further effort is not only unnecessary but detrimental, creating a needless recovery burden. 2. Recovery as the primary variable. The goal is not how often you train, but how well you recover. Recovery is now measurable, not with wearables or vague fatigue scales, but with objective progress charts and accurate body composition analysis. If your weights and reps are going up and your lean mass is increasing, your program is working. If not, it's time to adjust your frequency downward, not ramp it up. 3. Rebutting the critics. Some argue that consolidation training lacks enough stimulus, but their argument collapses under scrutiny. The Steele 2024 study showed sustained strength gains over 7 years of once-weekly, single-set training. Moreover, critics rarely cite data. They cite anecdotes or emotional attachment to high-volume paradigms. Recovery must be measured and optimized, not guessed. How many muscles does the program actually target? A common misconception is that 4 exercises couldn't possibly stimulate the entire body. In reality, the Consolidation Program targets nearly every major muscle group directly or indirectly through compound lifts. Squats, for example, train the quads, glutes, hamstrings, calves, abs, lower back, adductors, tibialis anterior, and hip flexors. Pull-downs work the lats, biceps, rhomboids, traps, rotator cuff, lower back, and abdominals. The deadlifts train the glutes, hamstrings, quads, forearms, traps, abs, and lower back. And the dips train the chest, triceps, anterior deltoids, rhomboids, traps, abs, and lower back. The 4 exercises of the Consolidated Program are very comprehensive. The notion that isolation exercises are needed is not supported by evidence. This isn't minimalism for the sake of novelty, it's biological efficiency. Facing reality about genetics and training volume. Some will insist that 4 sets across 2 workouts could never build a worthy physique. But muscle growth is not a democracy, it's a biological aristocracy. Nature assigns gifts unevenly, and no amount of extra sets can awaken muscle fibers that genetics never bestowed. If you possess elite genetics, consolidated training will expose it quickly. If you don't, no amount of wasted hours, marathon sessions, or doing more will conjure a physique nature never assigned to you. But Ronnie Coleman used high-volume training. Yes, and Ronnie Coleman is a genetic phenomenon, the human equivalent of winning the biological lottery twice. Mike Mentzer realized this brutal truth early. Even he could tolerate slightly more volume only because he possessed rare gifts. But he understood what most trainees refuse to admit. If you had Mr. Olympia genetics, you wouldn't be searching for better methods. You'd already be dominating stages. Instead of pretending otherwise, Mentzer turned the gym into his laboratory, training thousands and building a program based on what worked for the real majority, not the blessed few. If you insist on training like Coleman, Haney, or Schwarzenegger, go ahead. Just don't expect to escape the fate shared by millions who did the same, and ended up with nothing to show for it but wasted years. Can you really justify spending 8 to 16 hours a week in the gym for the rest of your life, chasing a level of adaptation your body may have reached years ago? This isn't just diminishing returns, it's zero returns for maximal investment. Worse, it's time, energy, and recovery capacity poured into a stimulus your body no longer needs, and may no longer even benefit from. expanding the case for a paradigm shift. And what about health? As we age, the preservation of functional well-being, not the circumference of our arms, becomes the true goal. With rising rates of injury, joint degeneration, and osteoarthritis linked to excessive training volume, the idea that more is better in fitness deserves serious scrutiny. True health is not defined by how much punishment your body can tolerate, but by how little it actually requires to remain strong, lean, and capable. Mentzer's philosophy was clear: perform only what is required to stimulate an adaptive response, then get out of the way and let your body recover. That same logic applies to nutrition. It's not about more calories, more protein, or more supplements. It's about not overfeeding the system. As Mentzer put it,
the fact of the matter is the majority of us in here already eat more than we need to grow. 10 pounds of muscle a year. That's why we're all so ripped. Because we're getting too many calories. If you're not growing muscular mass now, and you're eating sufficiently, and it's obvious to me everybody here is eating sufficiently at least, then what's the reason you're not growing? You're not stimulating muscular growth because you're not training hard enough. Very rarely is the answer to a growth problem, nutrition, especially in America or Canada, because everybody eats more than adequately.
Mentzer didn't advocate obsessive dietary strategies. His guidance was simple.
A lot of nutrition seems to be, to me, splitting hairs. People get so involved in their nutrition, which is okay. I mean, I'm not judging that. But it's a whole hell of a lot simpler just to, again, eat a little bit of everything and not too much of anything, train hard. And don't split hairs, unless you get off on it. It's up to you.
Of course, you're free to follow any diet you choose. But if your goal is fat loss, the principle remains: eat less of it. The most effective strategy is not to consume more energy than your body needs. When a reduced calorie intake is paired with Mentzer's abbreviated high-intensity training, the results are not merely theoretical, they're physiological and dramatic. During the Nautilus North fat loss study, for example, participants followed a standardized meal plan with gradually reduced caloric intake, starting at 1,700 calories for men and reduced by 100 calories every 2 weeks. Their workouts followed a Mentzer-style consolidated routine. The outcomes were remarkable. 30% of participants no longer needed blood pressure medication. 30% discontinued cholesterol-lowering drugs. Diabetics reduced insulin needs by 70%. Post-knee replacement subjects could now bound up stairs they once struggled to climb. These weren't the results of marathon gym sessions, exotic macro ratios, or supplement stacks. They came from brief, infrequent, brutally effective workouts and balanced calorie-conscious eating, just as Mentzer advocated. This two-pronged approach, precision in both training and nutrition, doesn't require a radical lifestyle overhaul. It simply demands discipline, intensity, and clarity of purpose. It delivers not only muscular development and fat loss, but robust, measurable improvements in health. It is data-supported, it is philosophically coherent, and above all, it is biologically rational. Conclusion: Mike Mentzer's legacy and the path forward. Mike Mentzer was not just ahead of his time, he was a prophet of exercise rationalism. The new paradigm of exercise must be evidence-based, not tradition-based.
But to intelligently, knowingly, rationally, logically do only what nature requires to activate the growth mechanism and no more.
It's time we listened.